Okay, so we've just looked at how to make a landscape and how to sculpt on it. So now let's look at how to make a very basic material that we can apply to an object. So I am going to come out of landscape mode and go into selection mode again. And then I'm going to import an object from that quick add menu up at the top that we can put our material onto. So I am going to make a cube and I'm just going to move it a bit closer to the ground. So using that end key to snap it down there and then moving it up a little bit. Now, we currently have a default material on there. Doesn't look very interesting. So if I come back to the content browser and right click in some empty space, we can add a new material. And we can call this anything we want. Naming conventions in Unreal generally state that if you're making a material, you call it M underscore and then whatever your material is going to be. This could be gold, this could be green if you're just making a green color, or this could be a very specific material like brick. So I'm just going to call mine M underscore color, and we're going to make this a very basic color. Now we've got it, but it's currently that default gray and darker gray grid. So if we double click on it to open it up, it will open a new window. Now, I always find the easiest thing to do is either have this on your second monitor if you've got one, or we can tab it up in the same place as our landscape. So just like with the content browser, we have a tab here which is the name of our material. And if I click and drag on it, we can drag it up to the top where we have our landscape level. So we've now got two tabs, just like tabs in Google Chrome. So I'm going to go back into our M color grid. And now this is our first look at blueprints. And this is a blueprint way of making materials. So currently we have one node in here, which is the name of our material. This is our input node. So everything we put into these values are going to be reflected on our end material and whatever it is that we apply that material to. So to navigate around in this view, because it's 2D, all we really need is scroll in to zoom in, scroll out to zoom out, and then if we hold right click and drag, that will pan around and we can see all of our nodes. Eventually, we will have a lot of nodes in here when we're making more advanced materials, but for today, we're only going to have a few very basic ones. So, the first thing I'm going to do is add a color for the base color. So if you hold 3 on your keyboard and then click while holding it, we get this new node. And this is called a 3 vector. And the reason it's called a 3 vector is because of computer graphics. So we can see on these pins we've got a red, green and blue. So this is our RGB, which is how all color in computers is made up. It is a mixture of red, green and blue. So those are the 3 different vectors that we have. And it means we can make any color we want by mixing them together. So now that I've got my new 3 vector node, I want to make sure it's highlighted by clicking on it, and it should be outlined in orange. And now I'm going to go to the details panel. When we're looking at materials, the details panel is in the bottom left. So just down here. And the only real settings we've got for this node are constant with a black box and description. We don't need to worry about the description. So in the constant, I'm going to click in this black box and it will bring up our color picker again. So let's make this just a nice green color. We could make it a little bit darker maybe, and then I'm going to click OK. And we'll see we get that green box. Now, to connect this up, I need to use this white pin at the top, which is the mixture of our R, G and B to make sure that we get the final color we want. So if we click and hold from that pin and then start to drag it, we'll see we get this little cable that comes out, or this pipe that comes out. Now I want to plug this pipe into the base color. So I'm going to go over to the little node next to that, and when I see the green tick, I'm going to let go. And it will connect those 2 pipes together. And we can see in the preview up in the top left, we now have our green ball. And this is the material we've just made. So anytime we make a change to a material, we need to make sure that we save it, otherwise it won't apply when we go back to our main world. So if we go to the very top left and look for the save icon, which looks like a little floppy disk, we're going to click on that, which saves our asset. And then we can go back to our landscape tab and we can click and drag this material either onto the object, or if we look at the details panel over on the left hand side, we can see that element 0 under materials gets highlighted blue, and this means we can drop it in there. So if I drop it over that blue box, our cube turns green, and this is our new green material. Now we'll go over one last basic thing in the materials for now. So if I go back in, we can see that we've got all of these different inputs. So we've got metallic, specular, roughness, and it goes on and on. We don't usually use every single one of these. One of the main ones we do use though is roughness. So we're going to have a quick look at how we can edit that. So this time, instead of holding 3 and clicking, I'm going to hold 1 and click. So holding 1, click in some empty space, and now we have a constant. So the constant is just a single number, and we can set this to be whatever we want. And this is the easiest way to change a value for one of these attributes. So if I say I want a roughness of 1, I will type 1 in this box, and I will connect that pin to the roughness pin. Now, a roughness of 1 means that our object or our material is going to be very rough. It won't be shiny, and we can see that reflected in this preview again. Now, if we change the value of this constant to be 0, it should turn quite shiny because it's no longer rough. And all of a sudden, we've got reflections, we've got a really, really shiny ball. And this is the best way to add a value to any of these attributes. Always use a constant. So I'm going to save this while it's got a roughness of 0. We'll go back to the landscape, and now our cube is somewhat shiny, and we can start to see the reflections of the floor in it. So those are the very, very basics of materials. So in the next video we will go over how to keyframe things, how to use the sequencer, and then we'll also go into, in the video after that, trying to make a landscape material. And that's going to include blending together multiple objects, or multiple materials, sorry, multiple textures. And that's where we start to get into quite advanced territory with our texturing and landscapes. Thanks for watching, guys. Hope you're getting on great, and watch the next one, I guess.